My name is Andy Page. I'm Manager of Video Collaboration Services at Cornell University. I'm joined by several colleagues, Ife Okama from University of Chicago, Joe Deck from Our Lady of the Lake University, and Gary Powell from University of Toledo, Chris Brewer from MIT, and Paul Lawrence from Yale. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing in video platform deployment in higher ed, and what kind of challenges we see. And we'd like to each take about 5 minutes to talk about what we're doing, get an idea, and then we'd like to open the floor up for Q&A and hopefully have a robust dialogue about where video platform is going within higher education. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ife.
So at the University of Chicago, we've deployed multiple streaming solutions. One being the IP television solution, which we use to stream broadcast television, live broadcast television, in addition to streaming video on demand content also. And a lot of the streaming has been kind of pointing towards or kind of moving towards live locally produced video. A lot of campus departments, they produce their own video, and they now want to make it so that that same content is available to not just everyone on campus using the distributed platform that we use, but also on the web. We also have begun to use a web conferencing solution also, and that's pretty much has been heavy used by our continuing education school, the Graham School, and they use it for continuing education, in addition to using it for web conferencing and other remote applications. And we've also actually recently started to use we've initiated the pilot for a lecture capture solution, and that pretty much is going to be used for the streaming of lectures, obviously, and recorded playback of lectures, so students they can retrieve classroom content and use it for their scholarly studies. In regards to challenges that we overcame in deploying these video solutions, in regards to IP television, there were no real challenges during the initial deployment, but actually, the challenge came when we migrated to the newer hardware, because there was a lot of internal coordination that had to be done with other entities within IT services to make sure that those services migrated over to the new hardware without a hitch. In regards to web conferencing, also I guess we've been lucky. We haven't had any types of challenges associated with that. But the only challenges that were really noticeable are the licensing. I guess is the licensing structure of our web conferencing service. I won't name the provider, but they could do some work on their licensing. And actually, one more thing is creating the knowledge base for the web conferencing solution has been kind of difficult because you have to account for every possible user scenario and try to anticipate the different ways that you might need assistance. So kind of getting that knowledge base together has been kind of difficult. In regards to lecture capture, the challenges that have come into play were basically having the lecture capture equipment racked in our data center. There's a whole process. I'm not sure about you guys, but we have this data center that's pretty much like Fort Knox, and you can't breathe in there without getting permission. So actually getting the equipment racked and having network connectivity for it was, I guess, requesting the network connectivity for it was also another issue, and just having time to coordinate with this group within IT services and that group just to deploy their service has been a real struggle. And in regards to describing future use cases for video at the University of Chicago, I definitely envision campus entities basically leasing or purchasing these video encoder MPEG boxes to basically stream themselves content on campus and making that content available for web consumption. I also see learning content being more available for classroom use. So we're getting a lot of requests for from faculty to have their lectures uploaded to the video-on-demand system for distribution. And another future use case that it's actually like a large, not large, but very important pilot that we're starting with the library. They want to have all of their audio reserves uploaded to our video-on-demand system for distribution, and also with their special collections content too for streamed video too. They also want that distributed because using our infrastructure is definitely more cost effective than purchasing another or outside proprietary type of distribution solution. So that's about it for the University of Chicago.
Nice. Okay, so we'll switch over to Joe, and Joe's got some slides to share with us.
Well, I've been at the university for 2 years now. It's a small school, 2,000 students. When I got there, basically all we had as far as video was a small flash server. Shortly thereafter, because of a renovation, we added 5 digital signs. We're currently running 25 digital signs on campus. Issues that we've had with this digital sign was basically what we wanted to do was allow faculty, staff, and students organizations to post their own. Getting them to understand the kind of formats that we could support and what we couldn't support was an issue. Letting them know that basically there is a priority in posting of information to signs, for example, publications when there's an emergency. We had a small snowstorm. We had an eighth of an inch of snow in San Antonio. They closed down the city. We saw kids on TV making snow angels, but we had to put up information on the signs letting the students know we weren't going to have class that day. So letting them know what the priority was in that was an issue. We do live streaming on request to the video signs. That's run through ITS. We haven't had a lot of requests for that, but we do that. The other thing that we do is provide show and share, which is a lot like iTunes. What it does is allows us to restrict information per classes. We've got behind the scenes on that. We've got a Wowza server that's actually serving up the information as well as a Windows Media server. We do restrict information. One of the issues that we've had on that is it's not as closely linked to Active Directory where we can actually build the restrictions as easy as we would like. We do provide training on that. We have done some live streaming, which ties our Houston campus to San Antonio campus. One of the other things that we've done in our community counseling center is about 2 miles off of campus, we've got graduate students providing therapy to clients. The psychology department uses touchpads to start a streaming session. It records that streaming session. When the streaming session is over, it sends the information, FTPs it back to campus automatically. It transcodes it. It adds some copyright information to it. And then it places on a restricted file server as well as the show and share box. Students and faculty then use that for training purposes afterwards. And basically the next slide kind of shows you how that works. Basically the VCS control is it's a telepresence solution, so it sets up a phone call between the endpoint and the TCS, which is the content server. Content server then records that information. It throws it to the Cisco MXE. The MXE transcodes that and throws it down to the file server. We also use that same MXE for faculty and staff to provide them the ability to transcode their own videos, or we transcode them for them. It allows faculty and staff to put on bumpers or trailers or watermarks on those videos, and that's a simple user interface. The behind-the-scenes user interface on the MXE allows us to go basically anywhere we can FTP a file from, transcode that video, and throw it to where we need. On the MXE for the simple user interface, it's as simple as a person could get. They point to it, say where they want to upload the video from. They say what kind of a device they want to send it to, or multiple devices, whether it's an iDevice or an Android or show and share. They say if they're going to add a bumper or trailer, and then it basically transcodes the video and throws it to wherever they've told it to and lets them know when that's completed. The next directions that we're going to be going in is we'll be adding that same technology to our speech pathology department. And we're adding the Cisco Movi and Jabber point as well as multi-point transcoding We'll be using that for tying our two campuses together, as well as for faculty to interview graduate students who are interested in coming to the university. We'll also be using that for faculty interested in coming to the university. And we've also used that at this point, because I've just got this up and running in the last couple of weeks, for a consultant to work with our admissions and financial aid offices. So that's kind of where we are and what we've done so far.
Thank you, Joe. So now we're going to turn it over to Gary Powell from Toledo.
Okay, good morning. I'm Gary Powell from the University of Toledo. Give you a little background about the University of Toledo. It was founded in 1872. As we are the third largest public university in Ohio, with a student population of approximately 21,000 students. If you're familiar with the old TV show MASH with Max Klinger, you always refer to Toledo and Tony Packo's. That's actually a real restaurant. So that's hot dogs in Ohio. So if you ever find your way to Northwest Ohio, drop in. So, okay. And say I'm the technology lead on two NSF-funded grants. The first is called LEADERS, which I won't go into the long acronym that goes in there. But basically, it's LEADERS is a science education grant for project-based science for pretty much 5th through 12th grade. It may go down to grade 2, but primarily employing project-based science techniques focused around renewable energy. So we're working with a cohort of teachers out in the field, university faculty, researchers, and businesses. We have a new green energy incubator on campus, and we're actually working with those companies and their researchers to actually provide a real-world understanding of the technologies and the research into renewable energy. The second grant is called Nurtures, which is sort of the same idea, but is going through PK through 3rd grade. So the concept is get young children interested in science early, then they will enjoy it and actually want to pursue it as a career instead of usually by 5th grade, it seems like interest in science just dies out. So that was the purpose of this grant. It's sort of engage them early in rich understanding of science, make it interesting, and then they will actually pursue it and get better grades in science. And that's been tagged as a national problem, low test scores in science and math. Okay, the next slide, this is sort of the napkin idea of this network that we created, which uses a combination of streaming servers, portal servers, and video conferencing systems, and a lecture capturing system. So basically, we can initiate a call from any codec in the world, and we can actually create a rich media presentation that we can stream live or make available on demand. So we have the traditional talking head with an expert or a faculty person, rich media content, PowerPoint slides, any sort of thing we can capture from the desktop, and it's skinned in real time, and we can actually stream it live or make it available for demand. So, okay, I'll elaborate a little further on a few slides about how we're actually using that technology. The technologies we're using to create this network is we're using Windows Media Servers, R2, Windows Server 2008. The Science Cafe is the portal in which teachers in the cohort actually use, so you can think of it as their cloud space. It's sort of a blended course where you have an online component, but they actually meet physically 6 weeks out of the summer and throughout the school year. So it's in a Masters of Science program. So they're actually teaching out in the classroom. They're doing their normal work day. Then they're actually attending the University of Toledo using the summer institutes and the online component. Yet again, the course capturing system provides video-on-demand courses, and the LEADERS grant is in its 3rd year, so we actually archived the previous 2 summers, so they are available online if they want to go back and actually review any of the course content, because they actually have to build PD lessons that they're going to actually teach out to their schools and their school districts. We're using a Scopia Video Bridge for our video hosted calls or our online PLC, which they will get on and connect, and sort of creating a social environment for them, since they are teachers with families and all the other problems of life. They can't physically be on campus, and actually they're only really on campus about the 6 weeks out of the entire school year. So all this is, we're using all the online technologies to compensate for that. We don't have so much of the issues with formats, and as far as is this video in the right format, or how you're going to connect, because we're actually providing the hardware. And so we can actually dictate that you're going to use this browser, we're going to have this format, because we have a small cohort. So in that sense, we're actually very good with not having to worry about the issues of transmuxing, or if we're going to have to encode on the fly if they're using a Android device versus an iOS device, or are they using a laptop, desktop, or a phone. That's not our issue, because we're actually providing the hardware, so we're lucky in that sense. Okay, now this is another elaborate the same graphic you saw before, where we're actually creating content in the classroom, which may be a university classroom, or it may actually be their classroom out in their school, because we actually deploy a hardware codec for them to use for the school year. So the idea is to foster collaboration between classrooms while they're out in their class, or they can connect with a researcher or a faculty person, sort of the ask the expert, so they can actually present and communicate with a researcher or the faculty person while they're out in their classroom. So they don't actually have to physically come to campus. If they need issues around anything from the content to navigating the master's program, they can actually use that communication process to facilitate that. Challenges. Basically, security, security, security. You imagine going to your local school system and say, I want to deploy a foreign piece of hardware on your network. And by the way, I want you to open up all these exotic ports, and not just port 80, but I have multiple port ranges to facilitate an H.323 call, and just the exotic ports that the hardware codec uses. So after getting past that barrier is also the adoption of the technology. We had issues around, I actually got it to work, but it was viewed as more trouble than it was worth in some senses, because the cohorts, some of them were actually in the same building, or it's the next feeder school, which is maybe 10 or 15 minutes away. So they didn't see the necessity of using the technology when they could actually do a face-to-face.
Gary, you got about 1 minute.
Okay. 5 minutes goes quick. Let's see. Okay, we get past challenges. Well, I've only got 3 slides left anyway. The future. Let's see, upgrades to the Science Cafe. We're going to SharePoint 2010. More of an expansion of the conferencing technology, because the new cohort is actually in Michigan, so they're not that 15-minute ride away. So we're actually going to see more opportunities to use the technology. And see, also progressing to more of iOS devices. We're going to actually go in and use a transmuxing project, because with the proliferation of iOS devices, our videos and content won't run on them because it runs on a Silverlight skin. So that's one of the major issues, and also increase in new security. And basically, we want to have collaboration on the go. We want to connect anytime, any place, on any device. So if you're on an iOS device, we can do that. If you're on a Windows Phone device or Android, we're hoping that the transmuxing upgrade will actually permit that, because it's the final goal to expand the resources of the cafe and all the streaming video to any of the partner schools, not just the members of the teachers in the cohort. So thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions at the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Gary. So, Chris?
Yeah. So I'm Chris Brewer with MIT, and we don't really do too much technology there, so I found a little project I'm going to talk about today. So this is the main project that I run. That's all the stuff I do. But I'm just going to talk about MIT Tech TV today, which quick, easy way to think of it is a custom homegrown YouTube for MIT. And just to give you a quick little workflow of the way it works, you have Tech TV users. They upload their own files directly themselves. So our only restriction is you have to have a @mit.edu email address, and if you sign up with one of those, you're automatically a full user and you can upload videos. If you don't have an @mit.edu, you can still sign up and be able to do everything on the website except for upload videos unless you get sponsored by a department on campus as well. So a user uploads a video, it goes through our web interface, it gets transcoded. Currently we're using the Cultura transcoding engine, and then it shows up on our admin moderation queue so that we can do quick scans for, usually tends to be copyright violations. Somebody likes to use a YouTube song or a U2 song for their soundtrack, and we have to let them know, hey, that's great, just send us a letter that Bono said, hey, that's cool. And if they can't do that, then we help educate them about copyright restrictions and show them some resources for either Creative Commons or public domain sites out there where they can get music and replace it and then re-upload it. So once it gets approved by us, then it's on the interface and either public or private depending on what the user chose. And then the other Tech TV users on the viewer side can go in and take a look at the videos. So our actual architecture structurally, hardware-wise and virtually-wise, the Tech TV box in the middle, that's the actual website, and the yellow blob is our current transcoding engine. We currently use Cultura for uploading, transcoding, storage, delivery, and the flash players. And we also have another file server, so as people were mentioning before, infrastructure on campus can be very expensive, so either we have our IS&T group host it for us, and storage would cost a whole lot more, or we just throw a file server in one of our side room, one of our NOCs that we control ourselves, and we're able to bump it up to a 10 terabyte storage space for additional files for much reduced cost, but then again, we have to handle that and maintain that. We do use our IS&T group for the main web hosting of the website on a VM. That way we get 24/7 support. It's much more robust on the networks and everything. And worst case, if our file server gets disconnected for 5 or 10 minutes, oh darn. But we're working on replacing that as well. And then as you see, viewers connect to all sorts of things all over the place through all different methods like external embeds and stuff like that. So just to show you some quick stats, we launched in April of 2007, and since then we've had roughly 12 million views of our videos. In the last 12 months alone, you'll see in our stats there how many viewages we've had. The big spike around December, the President's Office sends out a holiday card to just about everybody and their little brothers and sisters and cousins and aunts and uncles. So they really like the holiday card and everybody watches it, so we got a huge spike then. Just to show you what we're looking at, roughly 1.5 million views in the last year for over 6 million minutes of video viewed. So it's kind of fun to say, hey, people watch our stuff. So these are some examples of some of the features that we have on our website. Inline commenting, so you can section up a video instead of having to actually break up the video into individual files. Mobile device support, so that people can watch it on just about any device they want to. Privacy settings, which this school really likes since we integrated that with our Touchstone integration. If you've heard of Shibboleth for authentication systems, Touchstone, we just like to rename everything, so we called it Touchstone. So you can sign in and you can designate permissions. We were originally going to do it based off of individual videos, but then we realized, oh man, we're going to have to teach these people how to do it for every single video. So we decided to do it at a collection level. So you can do collections and sub-collections in those, so you can really nest things. And that way, you set the permissions on that collection, you set it once for a course, drop your videos in, and they're already applied. So it makes it a whole lot easier for a course for a semester. Professor just simply uploads it to a certain collection already designated for that section of their class. Permissions are already there, and they're all set to go. So we have other privacy settings as well to allow backdoor access, just in case somebody wants to share something with like a really high-profile donor and they don't want to have them log into the site. You can send them this backdoor link, and they can sneak in without any of the authentication being needed as well. Shh, don't tell. We also have comment moderation. Sometimes, I think it's happened once or twice on a website where somebody puts a spam comment or something that really doesn't have anything to do with your video. So we allow our users to go in and moderate their own comments if they want to. And then we also just moderate to keep things clean and safe and healthy. So more features that we have on there, closed captioning, because it's good for everybody to be able to enjoy this. Sub-collections for organization, I already kind of talked about. Analytics, so users can take a look at how well their videos are doing themselves. And then we have an administrator area where I can go in and do all the stuff that I've been talking about, all the moderation and everything. I can even do it from my phone. So as I was driving in on the train, yeah, process that one. As I was coming down on the train, if you've ever taken the Acela, they block streaming video. So it makes it really tough to moderate videos. So I just pop up my phone, watch the videos, and I can moderate it and do everything I want to straight from there, which is really nice and convenient. That way I can say, hey, I'm in the office. So additional file attachments, we add that into our video pages. Think of it like an attachment on an email. You go to read an email, but there's additional information that's relevant to it, and they're attached to the email itself. So we do that to our videos. You're watching a video, there's additional material that's relevant to it. We allow our users to simply tack on those attached files directly on that web page, so it's one-stop shopping for the viewers. We, of course, have sharing options, just like most websites share this, embedding, downloads. And all these things are user, or I should say video owner preferences. So they can turn any of these on and off at any time so that they can really customize the experience exactly the way they want it for their users. We also have video creation resources to help people figure out how to make videos, because everybody wants videos, but people are slowly starting to learn how to make them. And we like to try to make it a little bit easier, because the better videos that we have on the website, the easier my job is, and the more popular the website becomes. So just to show you a quick little screenshot of what a video page looks like, there it is. And feel free to check out the website, which is just chucktv.mit.edu. Some of the challenges we've been having, especially lately, is it's kind of popular. So not only on campus but off. So anytime you're popular, costs go up. We have about 14,500 videos on the site now, and in the last 2 years, more than half of those were uploaded. So we're really still on an upswing, and we see about 400 to 600 videos uploaded per month on average. So we have to deal with storage and delivery issues. So we're always looking at those sorts of things. What type of policies should we put in place? Should we put auto-retirement and archiving features into place so that if a video hasn't been viewed in 6 months or a year, the system automatically archives it, and then people can always pull it back. We would just simply remove the video files themselves and keep all the other metadata, because the rest of the information is tiny comparatively. It's the video files that you're worried about. So we'd archive that, and then people can still do searches, and if they go to the page, they want to watch the video, it says it's been archived, they can contact us, and we can get them a proxy video of it, or even restore it if they are willing to cough up a little bit, so that I don't have to do it all for nothing. Because it's all about money in the end. So other things that we're looking at doing in the future, we're always checking out to see how we can optimize the system to make it more efficient, to make it more cost efficient as well. So we're doing some initial tests with Amazon Cloud Services to see if potentially we might be able to do some things there. Looking promising, but I'm not going to talk too much about that because we're still in early testing phases. We also like to collaborate with other groups on campus. As I mentioned before, there isn't too much technology out there, but we do find one or two little things on campus here and there. So one of the ones that we're trying to collaborate with a professor, Jim Glass, in the Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Lab. He has some actually old technology that is really cool that has made it to mainstream in some ways, such as Dragon Naturally Speaking is a version of it. So we're looking to do automatic transcripting for all of our videos on the website and doing an interactive transcript layout so that it's kind of like a follow the bouncing ball method where you can see the transcript as it's being spoken. Every word is clickable and will jump to that spot in the video. You can search across words in the videos, and if you can highlight text and click on a button, you'd be able to edit videos based off of that. So we're calling those mashups. So that's something that we're looking to do in the near future if possible. And things are looking really cool with that. And we think we can even keep one of his postdocs around to create an audio profiling system for us so that every time, currently automatic transcripting is about 60 to 85% accurate, or 50 depending on audio recording qualities and all sorts of other factors. But we would, if we can get this guy to hang around for a little bit, get him to build a system that would learn every time. So if you've ever used Dragon Naturally Speaking, you have to train the system to your voice, and it gets more and more accurate. So we'd build that in. We'd say, here's Professor Langer, and every time you upload a video of his, you choose his profile, and then it learns from that every time. So the more videos of his you upload, the better and more accurate the transcripts would come out. And of course, we build in other systems to allow people to fully upgrade and correct their transcripts too, because your transcript's only as good as its accuracy, but at the same time, you can still do some cool stuff, even with just blocks of words with the mashup capability. So, is that good?
That's great. Thank you, Chris.
I'm done.
Okay, so we'll go to Paul from Yale.
Thanks. I'm Paul Lawrence, and I'm the Director of Learning Environments at Yale University. I don't have any slides with clouds and lightning bolts coming out of them. I wanted to talk just more generally about our integration of Kaltura within our learning management system, because it's really been a game changer on campus. But before I get into that, I think it's important to mention and really speak a little bit to our strategy regarding media distribution at Yale, because a few years ago we made a decision to look at two specific verticals for distribution of media content, and one being an external dissemination group, which would be really connected to our Yale communication team and Office of Public Affairs. That group focuses on messaging and branding and moderation of content. The content's curated for a wider audience, specifically iTunes, Twitter, and YouTube. And it's really a distribution channel for Yale and what's going on at Yale. The area I'm focused in, and what I want to talk a little bit about today, is our academic strategy regarding media and media distribution, both online as well as some of our on-campus projects that we're involved in. The media that we produce and the media that is produced is generally deeply connected to a community of learners, i.e. a course, both inside and outside the university. And again, there's overlaps in both the external and internal groups, especially at a technology level, and I'm involved in both. But I want to talk a little bit about the academic side of things today. So we had a challenge a few years ago regarding students, faculty, and researchers being able to use media content for teaching and publishing on campus. There was a variety of private YouTube accounts created, people creating their own Dropboxes, also using our central media server, which, as Chris alluded to, has some problems regarding IP, intellectual property issues. And worse, the kind of mile-long URLs that are created in that world. A bigger problem was the fact that within our learning management system, and we're using Sakai, if you're familiar with Blackboard, it's in the same kind of group of learning management systems. Sakai is kind of an open source version of that. Within that, people were producing and uploading extremely large videos within the Sakai learning management system, and clogging up the system, as well as creating videos that were difficult to distribute, including distribution via mobile devices. They're just so large. Worse, we were getting encoding wars happening on campus with people, some parts of the campus encoding in Windows format, some based upon more open standards. And it was just really becoming a headache for our faculty and our researchers and students. So it was clear we needed to find a storage solution that would integrate closely within our learning management system, but also leverage our robust identity management system and provide encoding and media standards. Also allow faculty to create collections on campus with media. We looked at a variety of solutions, and we settled on the Kaltura product. We're currently on the Eagle version of that right now. And at that time, Kaltura's main claim to fame was it had already integrated within a Sakai instance, and we leveraged some of that knowledge as we deployed that ourselves. The other advantage we found with Kaltura was it could operate in a standalone mode, because this time we're looking at the learning management system as essentially not being the be-all, end-all hub of things. And there are a lot of folks that want to deal directly with a content management system and not have to go through an LMS to do that. So that was exciting. Also, Kaltura provided integration within Drupal, and we're a Drupal campus as well. So that was big advantages there. We had a definite challenge regarding cost and the ability to scale. We had no idea in deploying a media management system within our learning management system how many students and faculty would use it. So building an infrastructure to support that would have really delayed the launch and would have added a significant amount of cost. So we're using Kaltura as software as a service. it can run within a kind of build your own model, but we felt that the software as a service allowed us to scale based on usage, and most critically allowed Kaltura to do what we think is the most incredible part, which is the lift of encoding. We don't have to worry about various media standards anymore. We're ready for the mobile environment, and again, that's something that we don't have to put a lot of energy into. The third issue was really good integration with our learning management system. We saw a lot of bad cases of integration, some of them being essentially just pointing to Kaltura and saying, go off on your own. We wanted to really create an experience where students had the same encoding, editing, posting tools within the same environment that they would be doing forum, or the same environment that they'd be doing live chat, or the same environment that they'd be doing their gradebook. So we really wanted deep integration. Again, we wanted to ensure that we could do collections. We wanted to ensure that we could share media across the learning management enterprise, and even publish outside the learning management enterprise, because there's some students that want to distribute and share content outside the university. So we were able to do that with our integration. So we created what we think is very much like a YouTube experience, and we're really concerned about the uploading experience for faculty. A lot of faculty, especially, would think, uploading would take seconds instead of sometimes the minutes or even longer. And we wanted to make sure that, again, we designed a really robust interface for the uploading of content. We worked with a company called Unicon to do a lot of the integration aspect, and we think it was they did a really good job, as well as our own internal team to do that lift. So where we are now within the learning management space, we have very high adoption. Faculty are using it at an accelerated rate. We've got thousands of courses up right now that are using some form of this. Again, we're ready for the mobile environment. We're getting a lot of iPad adoption, which is exciting. What's also interesting is we're looking for the ideas for our new learning management system, what the next generation of LMSs will be. And again, because we went to a software as a solution, we can be much more flexible in that integration and really think for different solutions for the LMS. You don't have to worry about the fact that they're too intertwined with each other. A surprising aspect of our media integration within our learning management system was the use of the webcam feature. Not that we think Yale faculty are shy, but we had no idea that they would actually, a lot of faculty would be turning their webcams on and be posting directly to the courses. And there's a huge adoption rate for that, especially in some of the language courses that we teach. So we're excited about it. I think the future right now is, we're looking for additional storage solutions, and as well as we're looking to transition more closely. We also run the Open Yale Courses initiative, and that is not using Kaltura, and we're hoping to think about a solution that we could use software as a solution for both services, Open Yale Courses as well as our LMS. So that's where we are.
All right, thank you, Paul. So I'm going to breeze through what's going on at Cornell and then open up the floor to questions. So at Cornell, we've decided to deploy a cross-campus video platform. We really wanted to open up a platform that across all the use cases for video that we have in higher education. So our video platform service is it's very flexible. It's open. It's built on Kaltura and Level 3 Communications Incorporated for the Content Delivery Network. It can handle a wide variety of audio and video formats and has features for search engine optimization and content monetization, and all the rich features that you come to expect from a video platform. We launched with 5 initial partners. We teamed up with Academic Technologies for their Blackboard product. University Communications, this is our central publications and marketing division, for a product they call CornellCast. This is the main university video presence. our libraries for their collections and something they're calling Leadcast, which is sort of a YouTube space for librarians to showcase work, and our eCommons, which is our institutional repository built on DSpace. The Lab of Ornithology is actually one of our partners. They maintain a large natural sounds collection, and they already have a very large online video presence. And we're working with them to initially migrate some bird content, and then we're in talks about migrating the entire library over to this video platform. And then the final partner is Information Technologies, not just to stand up the video platform service, but an instance of that is called the Video on Demand service, and this is a catch-all for more casual users of video. If you just really need one video uploaded to your departmental web page or into your blog or something like that, this is an easy, free service for people to do that. So that's those are the 5 initial use cases. In the past 6 months since we've launched this service, we have about 8,200 titles. 1,600 of those have been added into the Blackboard module since spring 12, so just this past semester. We've had about 215,000 plays. We have 8 terabytes of storage eaten up and 12,000 hours of on-demand content. But this is interesting. One event went viral, a live event, and consumed 33,000 hours of content. So all of our on-demand just got blown away by this one bloom of what's called a corpse flower. It's a very rare event in the horticulture world, and it became this very high-demand thing to watch. Our video platform service, we have 3 components, the storage and streaming component, and that's done with level 3 communications. The user-facing component, and this is provided by Kaltura, or it can be done at the unit or college level. You can have a homegrown interface or a departmental website or a campus YouTube or a campus-wide upload tool or using the Blackboard building block. These are all ways that end users can interface with the video platform. And then, of course, the content management and administration layer, the back end, where admins go in, they set transcode profiles, create metadata schemas, and all that fun stuff. That's the third component. And this is more of a graphical view of that previous slide, and shows on the verticals the 5 use cases, the libraries, the ornithology, central IT, academic technologies, and university communications, and then your content management administration on the horizontal, and that's hosted as SaaS with Kaltura. The user-facing components are by and large hosted on campus because they're pretty much the web presences. They're departmental web pages, usually within some sort of virtual environment. And then storage and streaming is a mix. All the streaming is done with level 3, but the storage is split depending upon the use case and what that particular customer wanted to do. So moving forward, we're adding new use cases. We're adding new features. We have our College of Human Ecology and our International Labor Relations College and the Macaulay Library are all spinning up instances of this video platform. And because it is such a distributed architecture, they're responsible for their storage and their streaming, so we can continue to grow this thing and add on new use cases in colleges relatively with relative ease. So that concludes the panels, and so I'd like to open the floor to Q&A. I'm going to repeat any questions or whoever the questions are addressed to, so they make sure that they get on the webcast. Does anyone have any questions for us? Yes, please.
I have a question. Because I'm from a K-12 institution, putting this video up, how do you prevent people from downloading it and then cutting the segments up so that things are taken out of context? Or do you allow the downloads of these things so that in certain things, because we've put up some video and it's been, kids have taken it, cut it up, and tried to use it against people. I'm just curious how that works.
Well, so just to repeat the question, and then hand it off to the panelists. So how do you prevent downloads? Do you prevent downloads? And if you do, how do you keep that download from being cut up and then stitched back together to take something out of context and maybe be used for cyberbullying or some other nefarious activity? Yeah, okay.
So yeah, with our case, again, parking our media content within a learning management system helped mitigate some of that. There's also, we have terms of use which I'm not sure your K through 12 students necessarily would care when they're clicking through. You know, I'll defer to my colleagues here, but I think to some extent it's almost impossible to kind of prevent this. There's ways of scraping video, you know, in many different ways. I think it really comes from, especially within K through 12, an education about how to use media and, you know, the right way and the wrong way. Because, you know, from a technology standpoint, I'm just not sure you can really prevent that. I don't think there's anything out there unless, you know, my esteemed colleagues have something up their sleeve.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, you're not going to be able to stop it completely. But what we do is we stream it. So basically, we actually store the files on a Wowza server, which they can't access, or a Windows Media server. They have, for those kinds of things, they have to go through Show and Share, which streams it down. Now, they could grab it and do something with it, but it's not easy for them to do that. And I don't know how many students could do that at that level.
And with us, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
With us, all of our video through the IP television system is distributed over multicast. So, I mean, yeah, you can do like a screen scraping solution or software to attain the video, but that's like one way we kind of prohibit that from possibly happening. And also, we're in the process of initiating this conditional access feature that basically it's called Grouper, or the solution is called Grouper. So you'll be able to select who you want to view the video and for how long. So it's like another form of preventative, you know, access. Yeah.
Yes, please.
You didn't talk too much about what protocols are being used to distribute or view the video. Are you using any HTTP adapted bitrate protocols, or are you seeing any demand for that? In other words, for long form viewing, more than 10 minutes. I mean,
So what kind of protocols are we using for streaming video, especially are we using adaptive bitrate streaming or HTTP chunking technology, especially as it pertains to long format content?
Well, for us, we're actually capturing, usually the courses are in 2-hour blocks. Currently, we're using HTTP streaming, and next week after I come back, we're going to actually go to ISS 7 smooth streaming. So primarily we want to be able to touch iOS devices because we're using them, and go to H.264. So we're going to, yesterday picked up some ideas about, you know, what bit streams we're going to use, so we're going to do some piloting around that. Because now that the audience is sort of widening out, and we won't be able to necessarily dictate what piece of hardware we're more likely to look at. So. And the proliferation of iOS devices is actually pushing that. So we've been systematically going in that direction. But we first started out with our real-time streaming. So that was 2 years ago. So we primarily keep progressing, but it's a smooth streaming solution going forward is the only way to go, I think. With the myriad of devices you're going to be touching, and you don't know who your audience are going to be going forward. So at least that's our case.
We're using, just to touch on we're using Kaltura and Level 3 for this streaming, so we have a choice between whether or not it's going to be downloaded or streamed, and then depending upon the device that the person is coming at it from determines what format it's using, and so we try and strike a balance that way. All of our academic content, anything that could be considered an educational record, cannot be downloaded, it can only be streamed. And in some cases, we want to make content available for download, like for the outward-facing communications. But for more internal stuff, we'd rather use streaming because it's less bandwidth intense. Okay. Yes, you had a question, sir?
Chris, you mentioned that you had an outreach initiative to educate faculty on how to produce their own content. Could you describe that a little more?
Sure. It kind of comes down to...
Chris, could you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah. So the question was, do we have an outreach for educating our faculty, staff, administrators, anybody in the DLCs to help them learn how to make videos? So we do, this guy does a lot of, I do a lot of courses and teaching. We have periods called IAP, interactivity period. It's like a January term where you can take whatever you want, do whatever you want. So I teach courses usually during that time on full production, step-by-step, from production to post-production to delivery and everything, as well as we have blogs where we post up tips and comments, stuff that we come up with, stuff that other users submit. We try to keep it an open, informal community so that everybody's happy to help each other out as well. And if need be, some people I'll even sit down with them and give them a little tour of Final Cut Pro or something if they want to take the next step and show them how to actually do stuff. And I find it's definitely worthwhile to sit down with somebody for an hour and teach them how to do something. In return, they don't call you back as much, so you have a lot more time to do other stuff. So if you teach a person to fish, then they might even give you a couple of fish in the end, and then you get dinner too. So it's kind of nice.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any workflow tips on closed captioning or best practices?
So workflow tips and best practices for closed captioning, yeah.
So what we do on Tech TV is purely on-demand video at this time. And so we built in closed captioning functionality that the users can do. There are a lot of different methods that we recommend for them. For people with low or no budgets, but they have a lot of student power, for example, we'll point out universalsubtitles.org, and they can just simply link to the stream into the website, universalsubtitles.org, and it will walk them through a process of creating your own subtitles. You can use other services as well. One that we tend to use is 3Play Media. It's actually an MIT spin-off company, or some former grad students of the professor I was talking about before. They've developed this great technology that's geared towards scientific and educational lingo and language. So they're able to actually understand the big words that people spew. I don't understand myself, but they do, and they get it right. And then people can attach their closed captions themselves at this time.
Yeah, I can't speak enough to the importance of both getting the closed captioning and transcription portion right to begin with, and especially in an academic environment, because there really isn't a lot of room for inaccuracies that way. And then when you move along into multilingual translations, it just becomes that much easier as well. So, I mean, it really starts with a good transcript. And, I know there's a lot, again, technology that can do that, but especially in the academic environment, sometimes it takes some human intervention. We're using 3Play Media as well for a lot of our closed captions and our transcripts.
At Cornell, we've teamed up with our disability services unit to start talking about working to find a university vendor for captioning within the platform, and then they would just be able to actually log right in and caption stuff within that platform.
Have you had any issues regarding not having closed captioning and complaints on that so far?
There are definitely always complaints for not having closed captions, and especially these days, you have to be really careful with the 508 compliance laws that are out there now. There's a lot more pressure on the institute, so we really need to. That's why we're looking into the automatic transcripting on Tech TV to help encourage our users to transcript their videos, get them halfway there, and then hopefully encourage them to take it the rest of the way from there.
I think you'd have more complaints, though, with bad closed captioning than no closed captioning. And I think I would just challenge anybody to flip on the news in their town and watch some of the closed captioning that we get over the air. Sometimes it's not so good.
Yes.
I was going to say at the University of Chicago, we're also investigating solutions in accordance with 508 compliance too.
Yes, sir.
Could you elaborate either on current implementation or future plans of providing instruction live to students at home, as well as capturing it for future on-demand?
So current initiatives for pushing content out live to students at home and capturing it for on-demand consumption later? Simultaneously, yeah.
I know a couple initiatives that we have. We've been doing live simul learning for 10 or 15 years now. Singapore MIT Alliance was one where there's actually a classroom on campus at MIT and one in Singapore as well, and they're learning distance at the same time from the same professor. I think that might have wrapped up in the last year or two, though. But we do things like that all the time. Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute and a couple other places like that. But it also translates. You can capture it like that and then post it on demand afterwards so people can go and watch it. We also have a lot of professors that just film their courses, post them up right afterwards so the students can go back and review it. They actually find that a lot more useful than having it live streamed, because then they still have to pay attention. But if you put it on demand after the fact, they can pay more attention to the actual theory and instruction that's going on during the class, and if they miss a note or a formula or something, they can go back and grab that from the notes. So they're actually we found the students like it a lot better for the review purposes, so they can go back and fill in their notes. And then, of course, there are always things like the Khan Academy style. I don't know if you guys have heard of MIT X or edX that have recently come out, but that's another method of style of learning that we're starting to take a look at and jump into.
Well, we've done that for about 5 years now. We had the capability, we usually have remote sites that was actually coming in via video conference, either a hardware codec or they had a piece of software on a PC or a laptop. And with our capturing system, we were actually just, as a byproduct, always just streaming it live. So we had people that may have been traveling on the road and been able to get in, or if I was out, because that was like the first couple of years, I would actually just watch via online to make sure there wasn't any issues, because they were primarily evening classes and I wasn't there. But just in case there was a hiccup, so I would, first 10 or 15 minutes, I would just go to the website, pull it up and watch and make sure things wrapped up on the end. So we sort of had that capability. Either the two methods, either they were live interactive with a video conferencing connection of some sort, or they were watching live via the internet. So, and there was a moderated feature so they could actually do an instant chat and submit a question if they wanted to do it that way. But most of I'd say probably 90% was actually using the live interactive through a codec of some sort. But if there was issues where they couldn't get connectivity, or they decided they weren't going to be on campus and go home, then they could actually go in and watch. In one case, we actually had a person who was on a military base, and the first few weeks, they couldn't get through with the firewall issues, so they were actually watching on demand, but it was the same course, because we couldn't get the live to work for the first few weeks of the course. But working with IT on base, they were able to get connected that way. So, yet again, firewalls.
Firewall issues. We have time for one more question, and then we'll have to conclude. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone.